in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, like, and first of all, that was very touching on that stuff because I feel that way as well as a man in the society. Like I'm 28 years old, and there's still like confusion around what it actually means to be a man. And I don't say that to buy into the thing you're saying. I'm saying that literally from my own personal experience. And when you see figures come along like the Jordan Petersons, the Andrew Tates, and people of that nature, and we can look in history and see there's people that have done similar things as well. It's the same thing you said. It's like it's so easy to attach onto that because the message is so confusing about what it means to be a male. And I guess beyond that, like, did I hear the solution there being that creating spaces where people can discuss that, and rather assigning a certain characteristic, like you ought to be muscly, you ought to be this way or that way, rather we have conversations that allow people to find what that is for them.
As a human being, because
Yeah, yeah.
competition, strength is not just an inherently male quality. Seriously, dude, watch a woman giving birth. Just watch a woman and you will
Yeah.
see competition, you'll see strength, you'll see independence, you'll see assertiveness. Do you know what I mean? Like, and yet I grew up not being incredibly I'm not competitive. I'm not. I mean, I think I am assertive now, but it's taken me a long time to get there. And I haven't drawn that from the men in my life. I've drawn that from the women. I'm incredibly inspired by the strong. You should hang out with my family, the strong women in my life. So again, the attribution of maleness and femaleness in terms of characteristics. And again, we can go into DNA and biology here. When we think about the differences between men and women, and the biology is pretty clear. Male and female humans have been moving towards less sort of differences, sexual dimorphism. Even there are fewer differences between men and women than there are There are more similarities than there are differences. Even if you were to map the norms of men and women, you'd see there are more overlaps than there are outliers. And yet we focus on the outliers to define the ideal characteristics of what it means to be man. In the same way that we focused on the outliers to define the ideal characteristics of what it meant to be an Arianic white male or a white person. We ignored all the connection points and the similarities. And I think that the connection points and the similarities offer us greater capability to deal with the real challenges of the world. And so, again, if we look at our DNA has more similarities than differences, not just across humans, but across other species. And so maybe the tendency to want to create differences is unnatural if we were to use that kind of that rhetoric or that form of rationalization. But I think you're right. Like that we can actually transcend the ideal constructions of what it means to be a man or a woman by challenging the relevance of them to us as complex humans. And also looking at the historical and cultural evolution of those ideal types and thinking about who they served. When I do this work in organizations, the biggest resistance we get is from people who don't want things to change because they're benefiting from an inequitable system. So that's a key indicator. And often there's only a few of them, but they have so much power that they can put a stop to things. So, again, like thinking, but also acknowledging that people are not necessarily good or bad, and that even the emergence of certain types of masculinity emerge out of a culture of which everybody plays a part. And so you can't just rip off that mask and say, well, that's it. Now you have to be something else, because that will just reinforce existing traditional perspectives that give people a sense of comfort. People have to come to that of their own volition. And for me, what I've experienced, and that's men and women, because male and female gendered norms construct and support each other, even though it's an inequitable relationship of power there. The idea of being a man and being a woman is sat within a relational dynamic through which they support each other. And so, I think that the greatest opportunity that I've seen, and I don't want to say it's a solution, but it's a real powerful thing that I've been privileged to be a part of more recently, is to watch people go into a space where they've had these ideas, where they've been able to question the relevance of those ideas, and to hold on to the stuff that works and matters to them and let go of the stuff that doesn't. And often that is not about what it means to be a good man or a good woman, or a real man or a real woman. It's about what it means to be a good human. And that can only come through conversation, dialogue, and those kinds of conversations and dialogues can only happen in a safe space where we're not afraid to really put stuff out on the table. We're not afraid to get it wrong. We're not afraid to, and where we acknowledge, we use the courageous conversations framework where, stay engaged, speak your truth, listen for understanding, but also accept and expect non-closure, and experience discomfort. And if we can do that a little bit more, we can engage in these big, brave conversations, which is where the real change occurs.